Imagine meeting someone who never seems desperate for approval. They don't chase compliments, reshape themselves to fit every crowd, or panic when someone disagrees with them. They smile when praised, listen when criticized, and then continue living according to their own values. At first glance, it can seem mysterious. Are they simply more confident than everyone else? Or have they discovered something most people never do? The answer begins with understanding one of the strongest forces in human psychology, the desire to belong. For thousands of years, our survival depended on being accepted by a group. Rejection could mean isolation, fewer resources, and greater danger. Modern life is dramatically different, but our brains still reward social approval. A compliment, a promotion, or a stream of likes on social media can trigger rewarding emotions because our minds interpret acceptance as something valuable. The problem is not enjoying approval. The problem begins when approval becomes the foundation of identity. People who constantly need validation often hand other people control over their emotional state. A compliment lifts them up. A criticism tears them down. Their confidence rises and falls depending on circumstances they cannot control. People who don't need constant validation have learned a different approach. They build self-worth from the inside out. That doesn't mean they ignore feedback. In fact, they often welcome it. But instead of asking, "Does this opinion determine my value?" they ask, "Is there something useful I can learn from this?" This distinction changes everything. Psychologists often describe healthy motivation as intrinsic rather than purely extrinsic. Intrinsic motivation comes from curiosity, meaning, growth, and personal values. Extrinsic motivation depends on rewards, praise, and recognition. Both have their place, but people who rely only on external rewards often struggle when recognition disappears. Think about an artist who creates because painting brings deep satisfaction. Compare that to someone who paints only if enough people applaud. The first person can continue creating through quiet seasons. The second may stop the moment attention fades. The same pattern appears in careers, relationships, fitness, and personal growth. One of the defining characteristics of emotionally independent people is self-awareness. They spend time reflecting on what they believe, what they value, and what kind of person they hope to become. Because they know themselves, they are less vulnerable to every passing opinion. Another quality is emotional regulation. Instead of reacting immediately, they pause. They recognize that emotions are important sources of information, but not always accurate guides for action. This pause creates space between stimulus and response, allowing thoughtful decisions instead of impulsive reactions. Healthy boundaries also play an important role. People who don't need validation understand that saying no may disappoint others. Yet they also understand that constantly sacrificing their values to avoid disappointment slowly erodes self-respect. Ironically, this often makes relationships healthier. Instead of performing for acceptance, they show up honestly. They apologize when wrong, celebrate others without comparison, and communicate their needs without excessive fear of rejection. Of course, nobody is completely free from insecurity. Even the most confident people experience doubt. The difference is that they refuse to let temporary uncertainty define their identity. Building this mindset is rarely dramatic. It grows through ordinary daily choices. Keeping promises to yourself builds trust. Finishing difficult tasks builds competence. Learning from mistakes builds resilience. Choosing values over popularity builds integrity. Over time, these repeated experiences create something far stronger than borrowed confidence. They create earned confidence. Social media makes this lesson even more relevant. Modern platforms constantly encourage comparison. We see curated highlights rather than ordinary reality. It becomes easy to believe everyone else is happier, more successful, or more attractive. People who don't rely on validation recognize this illusion. They enjoy connection without measuring their worth against carefully edited snapshots of other people's lives. If you want to strengthen this quality in your own life, begin with small practices. Spend time alone without reaching for distractions. Journal honestly about your values. Celebrate progress privately. Accept compliments graciously without depending on them. Listen to criticism with curiosity instead of defensiveness. Ask yourself each evening whether your choices reflected your principles rather than other people's expectations. These habits may seem simple, but they gradually shift the source of confidence from outside approval to inner character. Eventually, something remarkable happens. Success becomes more satisfying because it reflects genuine effort rather than performance. Failure becomes less frightening because it no longer threatens your identity. Relationships become deeper because authenticity replaces people-pleasing. Perhaps the greatest freedom is realizing that you cannot control what everyone thinks about you. No matter how kind, talented, or successful you become, someone will misunderstand you. Someone will disagree with you. Someone will dislike you. When your worth depends on universal approval, peace becomes impossible. When your worth comes from living according to your values, disagreement loses much of its power. Real confidence is rarely loud. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't need to prove itself in every conversation. Instead, it appears as calm consistency, the quiet decision to keep doing what is right even when nobody is watching. That may be the greatest psychological shift of all. The goal is not to stop appreciating encouragement. The goal is to stop needing it in order to believe you matter. Because the strongest form of confidence isn't built by applause, it's built by character. And character is something no one else can give you, and no one else can take away. Thank you for watching WonderVerse. If you enjoy exploring the psychology behind human behavior, subscribe and join us for the next journey into the human mind.